All right. Welcome back to the Trampled Underfoot podcast show. And just as a little sign of how things are might go, just when I pressed the button and now we're live, my video card totally got jacked up, and I'm looking at like weird stuff going on, so I have to reset it. So I'm going to pass it on to Mark so he can introduce our guest. I just got a whole screwed up thing on my screen.
And I've got a whole screwed up thing on my screen, at least in your corner. But no, I'm messing. Is that what that flashing black and white is? I didn't know what that was. Oh, okay. Your video card's playing tricks with you.
Yeah.
All right.
And you're kind of funny today, aren't you? You've got a little streak going on.
Me?
Yeah.
No, I'm just I'm tired is what it is. I'm very, very tired.
Well, don't take it out on me. I'll just say continue.
No, I'll take it out on you. I was having fun doing that. You're safe. You're 3,000 miles away. You can't retaliate, man.
Well, I'm back. Do you want me to do it, or because I'm back now? Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So we have right from the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, the one and only Greg, and the last name. Do we tell them the last name, or do we keep it secret so that you're as anonymous as possible in case everything goes down? Hill.
I don't care. Do what you want.
Okay.
Well, you can remember it.
I believe the name is Rygar.
No.
Nygar.
No.
Hygar.
Yeah, with a D on the end.
Hygar. Because there's a video game from back in the day that was Rygar. With and for some reason it always sticks in my head. So he's kind enough to come over and hang out with us, old friend of ours from the interwebs, and welcome Greg from all the way up there in the northern tundra. What's going on, dude?
Well, thanks for having me. Oh, not a lot going on. Just normal. Just existing.
Normal. For those out there who don't know, Greg is also known as the Snow Crusher.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have seen him out here in the chat messing with us, and particularly picking on Eloy about the Rolling Stones, that's the man.
No, not me.
Okay, I gotta let everybody know the three of us have a history, and it's funny to watch these two get going because one of them will get going on the Rolling Stones and the other one will get going on vampire and zombie movies, and you never know who's going to strike first. So
I don't know if you're setting up the canvas for what will unfold, but I made it a internal little checkpoint list to say I'm not going. Although I was tempted, I was going to throw in some vampire stuff just to see, but I know the reaction already, so I was self-controlling myself there on that one.
Well, you've done very well.
Yeah, we all know each other from a long while back on the interwebs for probably like 4 years or so or more.
I would say more even.
Yeah, since like 2016 probably.
Probably, yeah. 15, 16, somewhere around there.
Yeah. Somewhere in that neighborhood, yeah.
Yeah, we'd all hang out and stuff on different hangouts and whatnot.
So you're up in Canada, obviously, and you are real big into motorcycles, power sports, things like that, right?
Yeah. I worked for since off and on in the power sports industry, like mechanic, like for motorcycles, snowmobiles, marine, even chainsaws, lawnmowers, riding tractors, all that kind of stuff. So if it's got an engine, I was usually playing with it, whether for money or for just for a hobby.
Okay, and that is your main hobby, though, is working on engines and what have you?
Yeah, I guess so. I also have other hobbies that I've tried over the years, and I kind of go away from and come back to photography, that sort of thing. And it's kind of to do with I like technical things, and so it's interesting to me. So a video camera, oh boy, this is fun. Look what I can do with it, or what I can get in trouble with. And so, you know, I play around with that kind of stuff. You know, hunting, fishing, always did that. Not so much anymore, just because of mobility and that kind of stuff. But and changing times. But yeah, a
But
lot of I've had a lot of interest. In fact, too many that I don't
oh,
focus on anything exact, and then become
yeah.
really efficient at it.
I feel you because that was my reaction. Oh God, do I know that feeling?
Yeah.
I've got stuff piled up all over the place. Too many interests and not enough time.
Hmm.
But you still get out on the Goldwing and go for
Oh
long
yeah,
rides, right?
yeah.
Okay.
I ride with a couple of guys. Just regularly, and by myself. Depends on
Mm.
what I feel like and that. And a couple of guys, or one guy in particular, we go out for lunch, and we'll head out mid morning and find lunch somewhere along the way, and turn around, come back, usually a different route, and we'll end up going 3, 4, sometimes 500 kilometers. So that's a couple of hundred miles,
Mm.
maybe 300 miles, somewhere around that.
Wow.
And
Rapid fire questions to you, just whatever comes to mind. A succession of them, whatever the answer is that closely resembles what you would prefer. Favorite motorcycle
it would
brand.
have to brand Honda.
Favorite tool, if you had to pick one.
A die grinder.
Die grinder.
Mm.
Favorite color,
Ooh.
if you had to pick
I
one.
would say it would be probably a blue or shade of blue, like just you get your blue greens in there sometimes, that kind of thing.
Favorite meal,
Mm.
fish.
Well, the size of me, there's nothing too much I don't like.
Yes, please.
Mhm, yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, yeah, anything,
You don't have.
almost.
Okay, all right.
You know, a good steak dinner, good
So steak,
hamburger, a good even fish, whatever. I'm not,
undecisive. Everything's good.
like salads, except for all the green stuff, they're pretty good too.
Favorite band.
Mm, I can't say favorite. It goes from time to time as I'm, get in a mood, and
Pick one.
but it would be oh, geez, it's a toss up. Like I say, it's almost equal.
Okay.
Probably a Led Zeppelin, you know, would
Mm.
be my favorite.
Favorite
Okay.
Is
vampire movie. I had to do it too. That was
well, I can't think of
no. Forget it.
my
Forget it.
favorite. I got so many.
Oh, you
Yeah.
did. No, favorite movie genre.
Um, Drama, suspense, or suspense, filled drama, like uh,
Like detective movies and things like that, or
detective, a who done it, sort of a
Mhm.
deal.
Those are
Take
good.
what's his name there? Oh goodness.
Dick
Um,
Tracy.
no, no, no. The director, this that
oh,
did Psycho,
Hitchcock.
Hitchcock. I like that. Although, there's other ones that are kind of similarish, that I like. That's the kind of stuff I like. Um, for the most part, a believable plot. You
Okay.
know,
Okay.
Based in some form of grounded on Earth, not
yes,
extraterrestrial, wild.
yeah. Sometimes, what is it? Reality is stranger than fiction, and
Yeah.
when they do some, based on true things, it's yeah, that's sometimes they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, the last question on the list, and you guys can, if it's something you can work with, it's what I had mentioned to Mark earlier. Um, I'll ask you the question, and then I'll explain briefly and see where this goes, if it goes anywhere. Favorite pet?
You have to be a dog.
That puts you in the category of a well-rounded, balanced individual because earlier I sent Mark a video clip, and I don't know. I think Mark saw it.
Yeah,
According,
I watched it.
and so what it is that there was a situation where a gentleman had some terrible tragedies in succession, um, and he got himself a pet in order to help him ease the moments in life and whatnot. And the pet he chose was an alligator, which he proceeds to carry everywhere he goes on in his arms. He pets it. There's nothing protecting the mouth, like taped up, or anything. And he's just free to, and he's docile. The headline, and his family thinks he's crazy, and that you see the gator there and people around him with that jaw that can crush down with 2,000 pounds of per square inch of pressure, sitting free. Um, and I was just so dumbfounded that I sent it to Mark saying, Mark, do you think that this is so? The question is that we'll see where it goes or whatever is people's weird habits, things that are weird, choices like that, people that have creatures like that, just the out of the way type people, and just what do you guys think about that with the pet and see where this goes?
Well, he must keep it fed well,
Okay, yeah,
or
that
or
makes
else there could be consequences, I would think.
Well,
But then that's kind of a thing you get trapped. You get into the more you feed it, the bigger it gets.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden you got something that's
Yeah, really. He said it's never been aggressive. It's never killed an animal or anything like that. It's never attempted to snap at anybody or go after anybody. But about how long would you say it is, Eloy? About 5 to 6 foot, something like that.
it's probably about 4 to 4.5 feet because he could still maybe a little bit. It's probably about 3.5 to 4 feet at this point. Just the
Okay.
simple fact that he's carrying him the way he is, according to what I remembered. So he's not
Yeah.
he's not a huge gator, but he's not a small gator.
No, he's not huge, but I figured with tail and all, it would be a little bit bigger than that. But then again, I don't know how big they get. I know they get huge, and I know they live a long time. But I don't know. To me, I've always been more of a live and let live kind of whatever floats your boat type of a person. If you want to put sour cream on your french fries and ketchup on your baked potato, I say why not? Go for it. It's the same vegetable. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
But when you start bringing alligators home, yeah, no, we got to talk. There's a line there that you don't cross.
yeah, your sour
And
cream won't bite my finger off.
yeah, apex predators, we have to draw the line,
Well, regardless of the size of the thing, and it gets more severe the bigger the creature gets. It's just unmanageable. But
Yeah.
even at the size that he's at, that can tear limbs off,
Hmm.
Yeah.
particularly extremity, like fingers and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
And if it does grab you by the arm, wrist, or this or that, they start to thrash left and right, and it starts to rip stuff. And so it's bad news. But like Greg said, if you keep them, even if you keep them fed, they're reptiles.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. I question the well, I don't know what would you call it, the not so much
Truthfulness of it.
intelligence, but the you know
Sanity.
the sanity. Well, whatever. What would set this animal off? You know,
Anything.
and
Yeah.
and you don't know it. Like we're much more in tune to what dogs like, what dogs don't like. We can dogs are different. Like each one is
Sure.
different, but we kind of got an idea in that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if the brain function in an alligator or a snake or a scorpion is enough to have,
Or a
like to say,
tarantula. Yeah.
yeah, that you can really trust that what it's going to
Exactly.
do or what may set it off. So
Well,
No,
the
it
Dogs are
thing
wouldn't. It
about
wouldn't be
it,
for me.
the
dogs
thing
are
about it is, dogs and cats are domesticated.
and they're
Yes.
territorial too. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
Yes, they
but
can be territorial, but generally speaking, a dog will bond with the family
right.
Mhm.
that's taking care of it and may be protective of that family.
But
Mhm.
the
Or
alligator is territorial too, but they have none of
exactly,
that extra stuff.
exactly. They're not domestic. They call them wild animals for a reason.
Yeah.
Now there's
You
people
know.
that have, got wolves as pets. Now they're not
Mhm,
domesticated, although they're kind of like a dog they look like a dog at times
mhm.
and that, but there again, I think they would go back more to instinct than, it would rely on instinct more than a domesticated
Yes,
animal.
yes,
So I there again, a wolf, no, no thank
There,
you.
yeah.
there's there's another. Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Say my brother's ex-father-in-law had two wolves, and he bred them with German shepherds and sold. He called them timber shepherd puppies. They were cross between timber wolf and German shepherd,
Hmm.
and they he raised them from pups himself, but even he was wary of them, and they were not in the house animals. They were had very large runs out on their property that were basically overglorified cages. They were huge, um, had tops on them, 6 foot chain link, and the animal could roam free. But he was very wary of them. He said, "No, you can't trust them because they're not domesticated." And
Hmm.
he had raised them from puppies. He could walk up and pet them, and they would, do the look just like a big German Shepherd, wag tail and pant and the whole ding dong thing. He says, but these are not domesticated dogs. These are still wild animals, even
Yeah.
though I've raised them and they know me, they know the family.
Yeah.
He still didn't trust them.
And that's the safe bet
Yeah.
because
Well, the old circuses used to bring all different types of wild animals and into their thing, and then show all the tricks they could do, like
Mhm.
bears, lions, even apes, that kind of thing. Like, and there's been how many instances where they,
Mhm.
decided they were going to attack the trainer, the owner, the whatever,
Yeah.
and
Well,
and,
look at
and the strength they have is ridiculous. Like, larger
yeah,
animals.
look at Siegfried and Roy in Las Vegas. I mean,
Hmm.
people they became kind of sort of they were the butt of so many jokes. And then all of a sudden that one day, you know, uh-oh, is that the bat phone? Sounds like he might have some severe weather coming. Um, all of a sudden one day, one of them just went berserk and attacked.
Hmm.
And I mean, these are animals they had been working with and had been around for years.
And they were
So,
almost domesticated, or they were trained to
or
to
so
do.
they thought.
Yeah,
And it only takes one time, you let your guard down and that animal sees an opening and kaboom. So,
exactly. That's the thing. Like, I'm
mhm,
not too scared of cats attacking me. Well, because, my hand's bigger than their paw, so
yeah,
whatever. But dogs, well, I'm not comfortable with all dogs I come
no.
up and meet, but for the most
True.
part,
Well,
you know,
the
yeah, but you,
smaller they are, the more overcompensation in some cases they become. So they they macho up a little bit, the smaller ones, because they know
yeah,
that everything's dangerous, and then the bigger ones tend to be like, yeah, I'm kind of big. So in not all of them, but there's sort of like a weird compensation thing. The
mhm.
bigger ones are like, no, I'm not dangerous. I know I'm big, I can kick ass, but I'm trying to. The smaller ones are acting like, it's
Oh
kind
yeah,
of like human beings.
if Chihuahuas were the size of Great Danes, we'd be an endangered species.
hmm
Yeah.
They've got some issues, those little ones.
Now, Linda says, "Oh no, reptiles are a no go at this station." Well, I would draw one. I would draw one exception out of that, and that would be like geckos and lizards. Anything that eats bugs like that, I'm a fan of.
Yeah, yeah.
Even in the house, I mean, I'll try to chase it outside and kind of escort it. It's like, no, dude, come on. But
There's
Friends of
another.
ours had turtles,
mhm,
and I don't know exactly what type they were, whether they're turtles or tortoises or whatever, but he kept them in an aquarium, and
uh-huh,
and there was a lot of water in it, and they it was, I don't know,
uh-huh,
30, 40 gallon aquarium. Had them for years. There was a male and a female, and they ate whatever, flies you could put in there, hamburger, this kind of stuff. So they were, a bit carnivorous, and the size of about a sandwich plate, maybe about
mhm.
8 inches across, or even small, about 7 inches. Come home one day after about 15, 20 years, and the female bit the head off the male. So they can't even trust themselves.
Yeah, I mean,
But
wow.
being in an aquarium, it didn't bother the people.
That's kind of weird, though.
It's just something about it, about I
I
don't know.
don't know.
Um, the,
Or
I was gonna mention. Oh, go ahead, Mark. I'm
I
sorry.
was
Go
just
ahead.
gonna say, our mutual friend John Cousins has they have tortoises as well, but he
Hmm.
lets them outside during the summertime,
Hmm.
and they go do whatever in the backyard, and then he rounds them up, brings them back in.
You're kind
So
of so safe in the safe zone as far as danger to humans with those creatures by a long shot. Although you could, in certain cases, lose a get bit because they do have powerful jaws too. But an
mhm,
alligator, the tail is all muscle, and it's not
mhm.
like they just bite. Their whole body thrashes, and the tail can bust your stuff open, and like the whole creature is meant for survival at all costs. Which,
Yeah,
at all costs, while using violence in order to achieve its survival.
yeah. Jim Dockrell says, my mama says alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth and no toothbrush. That may be.
Yeah, and their teeth are full of bacteria. When anybody has ever gotten bit where I used to work here, um, the first thing is you have to flush it out as quick as you can, and then you have to go to get antibiotics because they're so you know full of bacteria. Their teeth are that you're looking for a terrible bodily reaction, fevers, and all sorts of stuff. So it's all bad.
Yeah, yeah. And then
Even
that's
even in the best case scenarios, when it's like, I was gonna say domesticated, even if it's something like the guy that was holding his, you're still looking at bacteria and just the whole
yeah.
slew of
Well,
situations.
I don't know when they stopped doing it. But it was years back. You used to be able to go to any pet shop, and in fact, like Woolworths and Long's Drugs and a bunch of other, they had a little pet department in there. You could get little painted turtles. They were about the size of a orange, maybe about that big around, a small orange. And you'd get a little plastic, kidney shaped pond that had a little plastic palm tree, and you put gravel in it and water in it. I don't even remember what you fed them. I had one of those, but they stopped selling them. And I don't know when they did, but I don't know if it was a ban or they just quit selling them because it turns out they were carriers of salmonella
Hmm.
and they were making people sick. And now you can't find one.
I remember
Yep.
many friends of mine growing up would have them, like
Yeah, I had one.
in their room, sitting on their
Mhm.
dresser, or whatever.
Yeah, I had one.
Mhm.
But they stopped selling them all of a sudden, and I'm not exactly sure when that was.
I would almost say the early '70s, mid '70s is when can't remember.
I don't know. It's just one of those things that kind of faded away.
I still hear the budgies
Yeah,
and that sort of thing. They still sell them at these
yeah.
at these pet places, like
Mhm.
they not so much the Woolworths and that sort of store, but well, there is no more Woolworths up here.
Right. There's no Woolworths that I
Yeah.
can think of anywhere, I don't think.
Mm.
But yeah, now you have to go to pet shops, but you used to have bird areas in like Kmart and
Hmm.
thrifty drugs and things like that. You could hear them screeching all over the store. You go back, and there were parakeets and budgies, and maybe a cockatiel or two.
Yeah.
But
Um, the other one that I had, just to throw out, I think I got two of them that are weird. There's a family, a husband and his wife, that live in a pretty nice open area, farmland type thing, and for the past like 20 years or more, are the owners of an honest to goodness bear. And when they got it, it was small, and it grew up with them. And in the video I saw, the family enters their area, and the bear comes up huge and wraps its paws around the gentleman in his 60s at this point, and its paws are bigger than the guy's face, and he just hugs
Mhm.
him, and every little gentle hug moves the guy as if he were like a feather, and he says, "We love these, and they know us, and this is a," and I get that animals can recognize, love and stuff, and they are mammals, and the closer you get to the mammal world, there is some consideration if certain things are met, conditions are met,
Mhm.
but the possibility of chaos is at every turn with this situation, because even if it didn't go wild, crazy, a, a gentle love tap can mean can mean
Broken bones.
yeah, or worse.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Well,
so how about that? How about something like that? Like,
well,
what possesses a person to go in that direction?
and you're exactly right that it doesn't have to be any sign of aggression. I mean, people that have big dogs,
Hmm.
right? Do you know anybody that has a big dog that forgets how big it actually is and like wants to try to crawl up into your lap
Yeah,
or just kind of leans up against you and you're like, geez,
Yep.
that's all it takes is a playful swat like that. And when you're talking about a bear, those claws will rip your face off,
yeah,
you know.
Well, it
So,
starts out like you said when they got it was small. Well, of course they're cute, and they, when they're small, and what they get big.
well, that's
yeah.
a question I have. There for a while, there was a big thing going on with people were getting these little potbelly pigs.
Hmm.
And that was a thing for a while. I think it's died down now. Here's hoping. I wonder how many people bought what they thought was one of those little miniature potbelly pigs, and it turns out all they got was a piglet. Next thing you know, they got 2,400 pounds of pork walking around the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you say a bear for a pet,
Mhm.
I grew up in the watching '60s TV, and well, I don't know if you remember, Opie's brother starred in a show called Gentle Ben, and it was
Gentle Ben,
about
yeah.
a bear that was a pet.
Dan
And
Haggerty.
yeah, and then there was also a show called Flipper, and it
Mhm.
was I believe it was a porpoise or a dolphin, one of those two.
Mhm.
It was a dog.
And it was well, yeah, they're intelligent and all that kind of stuff, and they had adventures and all that kind of stuff. So that people have been trying to domesticate wild animals or pets or make them pets for forever almost. Skunks. People, I've been in a veterinarian clinic, and in comes a person with a skunk, you know, on a leash. It
Yeah.
had been descented
Yep.
supposedly, and that,
Oh,
but
look, kittens. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm kind of a believer with this. Keeping any wild animal as a pet is not a good idea. They call them wild animals for a
Hmm.
reason. And Jim, you're absolutely correct. All animals were wild at one point. It- you can still see a bit of that in domestic house cats. They more or less just tolerate people. You know, Dogs are a little bit different. Dogs are unusual in the animal kingdom, but it won't take much for a dog to revert back to the wild. I mean, you can see that in various in South America and in Africa, where there are wild dogs out there, feral dogs and feral cats for that matter, that
And
just are not domestic at all, not domesticated at all.
when
We
I
have
used to work, let me just mention this bit. When I used to work in the Everglades, I did a side gig cleaning out the animal sanctuary for one of the gentlemen that worked there. So I would drive to his sanctuary and we would do the cages and stuff and feed them. And there were boxes left for us of chicken, whole, chicken. And we'd tear open the boxes and there was a cage and these panthers or catamounts or mountain lions were in these cages and you'd feed them just through the opening of the cage and they'd put their jaw right up to it and just rip it right from your hand and straight in. They'd crush a couple of times, crunch, crunch, and swallow and wait for more. And you could literally go through a whole box, whatever. It's just a huge box of chicken, and that's what it took to satisfy these creatures, and the alligators too, and all the animals and stuff. And there are people that own these creatures, for the purposes of shows, education, income, and they dedicate their lives to this thing. In my case of what I was around, the most dangerous ones in my to my and I, we they had in one case a bear as well, which was crazy. Um, to me, the further up in size, the more dangerous I felt it was dangerous. I did the job, but um, it felt like danger. It felt like something bad could happen at any turn.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, I mean, if you don't have that in your mind, um, I don't know, something would have to be wrong with the person. So I would I never went in the cages except for one time that I was visiting some other friends, and we went into the cages. Come on, Elo, come in. I was like, I'm not interested in doing that, but like, I guess the macho thing. I said, okay, I'm going in, and my friend was in there. I didn't feel it right to go in there because the danger level felt like it was going up
Of
on the
course.
dial. And I went in and I went right up to it and go ahead, pet it. And the mountain lion is sitting there. Its head is like bigger than yours. It's like, and its eyes are huge, and it's like, and you're petting, and you pet it, and you're like, holy crap! And you're like right there, like all it takes is for that thing to say, you know what? I don't think so. It's time for lunch, ladies and gentlemen, and you're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rushing for the door if you can open it and drag your half limp body out. And so,
Yeah.
no, whatever. I just wanted to share that's how insane. And so to watch these things, and yet they do it to this day. I have some friends from back in the day that are like badass people. Not me by any stretch. I didn't, but they are badass people, and it's amazing to consider what they did and do on a daily basis. It is incredible.
Well, there are people who do kind of set up sanctuaries
Yeah.
for animals that close down petting zoos or whatever, and they just give these animals a place to live and regular feeding and take care of them and vet checkups and things like that, because they're too domesticated, too used to human contact to survive on their own in the wild.
Yeah.
But you don't want to see them abused or hurt or anything like that, so give them the best life you can. And I think that's great. I mean, but when you start bringing them into the house around your family, I mean, adrenaline junkies are adrenaline junkies. You want to risk your own life, that's fine. But when you start risking the life, potentially risking the life of your family, that's something else.
Yeah, and
You know,
dogs have been with us as far as people can tell, has been domesticated into the unknown past, into the
yeah,
prehistory time of human beings. We've shared a mutual relationship that I think to a degree, I don't know this, but I think that to a degree it's inside of us to
Mhm.
observe a dog and bring it into our fold. At
Mhm.
least I feel that inside. I don't look at them as just animal. Maybe it's because there's other places around the world that do other things. But I look at a dog, and I elevate its value.
Mhm.
I hate to say it, close to that of. I know it's not, but close to that of human, pretty close. When I look at a dog,
I think they have a special place. I
Mhm.
would agree with that.
yeah, it's a tough one to like. It's a blurry line when I see any sort of abuse towards in that scenario, because it enrages me just as bad as seeing that happen to humans, let's say. I don't
Yeah.
know. It just, yeah,
Yeah.
dogs are special.
Especially the dog. Like the more you know the dog
Yeah.
personally, the more you can
Relate.
relate to it, and it has
Mhm.
its character and its personality and all that kind of stuff. And
For
yeah,
sure. For sure. Okay, Linda says I used to work as a dog groomer's assistant. The only one that bit me was a miniature poodle. Then she kind of swears. Yeah, that kind of goes back to that. The smaller they are, the more temperamental and meaner they tend to want to be.
well,
They got something to prove.
I had a cocker
Mhm.
spaniel when I was a kid, and we went out to the lake, and of course we didn't get rid of the fish entrails good enough, and the bear shows up to looking in the burn barrel, and there was two dogs, the cocker spaniel, and then the friends. Oh, it was a German shepherdish cross, big dog, big
Mhm.
brute of a dog, and nice dog, and so the bear is making a noise out by the burning barrel, and I don't know who it was opened the door, and out goes the cocker spaniel going to take on the bear. And where's this big, huge brute of a dog? Under the bed.
Yeah.
He just
Yeah.
went. But the thing is, one swat of that bear on that cocker spaniel would have been the end of it, like
Yeah.
for the thing. But like you say, the smaller the dog, the bigger the ego or the
The
thinks it
bigger the
is.
heart, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They think they're bigger than they really are. I don't know, man. Our we had a English Springer Spaniel, and he was that way. We called him a watchdog because if somebody broke in, that's what he would do, just sit and watch and probably point out where the good stuff was, you know. But it just a big, basically a brown and white rug in the middle of the floor.
Mhm.
But by far, all the animals, the dog, either we warmed up to it was a mutual thing, or they were quite cunning and said, "These people here, these two-legged people here, they've got something good going because they keep eating every night. You know what, guys? Let's sort of ease into them." It might have been a situation where they figured let's hang out with these people here and try to get them on our side because I
That's
think we've
it.
got something going here.
We protect them, they'll feed us. Good win-win, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
And that kind of dovetails into what Jim said here. Cats tolerate people because they are their servants. Yes, exactly.
yeah.
There's a meme out there. I'm sure everybody's seen it where you've got somebody feeding a dog and the dog is looking up going, "They feed me, they take care of me, they love me, they must be God." And then you got somebody feeding a cat and the cat says, "They feed me, they take care of me, they love me, I must be God."
Yeah, they definitely have a holier than thou, top of the food chain attitude.
Mm,
Yeah,
definitely. And yeah, Jim, you're right. Dogs still bite people. You're absolutely right. Dogs get territorial and protective, and some dogs are unpredictable. But if you take the time to get to know the dog, usually you can reduce that risk. Some dogs just, can't be around people,
Yeah.
but that's more of an individual thing than it is the species as a whole.
yeah,
I'll take the time to get to know a dog. I will not take the time to try to get to know a bear.
Mhm. But
yeah,
then it goes into what different types of dogs or
Mhm.
breeds of dogs are more. I don't know. Uh, to me, I have the ones I like,
Mhm.
and other ones I just don't know. No thanks. That's good for you, and but not for
Well,
me.
going on, it's kind of a segue, but not. And how about, so there's people that do this, that they bring in these weird these animals that are kind of wild and this and that. How about the people themselves? They have to be slightly weird, um, meaning a deviation from the norm of the populace at large. People that fall into whatever extremes of the spectrum to do such things and all that. Um, how about people? Boy, I don't even know. I guess I was trying to tie it in, but I'll just throw it out and see. We can go and leave this. But how about people that um, are just wacky people? What are some good examples? Like we often talk behind the scenes about like people that form cults and so on and so forth, and people that follow them and so on and so forth, and humans that are just completely off the range, let's say, of normality. Like there's a dude up in Russia or Poland somewhere that says he's Christ, and he literally has gained throughout the years like thousands and thousands of people that have migrated to his place and all live in commune and this and that. He lives in some sort of high rise thing, and the people gather and they have, and there's all, like, humans are whacked on in many cases. Any general thoughts?
Well, it's been going on for years, and like you say, people following other people's whatever you want to call it. You know, somebody decides they're going to call themselves a whatever, a prophet, of this, of that, and yeah, you'll
Yeah.
have people following them, and it's well, it sometimes ends up bad. You know, there's your Jonestown, and as one sort of thing, and other ones, maybe they're a little bit more benign and not so bad, and it does probably do some people good to have something to focus on, and maybe but yeah, there's lots of different people. I look at, like, if I thought you were going to go with something like artists,
We could go there. I just
and
threw
and
something
the
out.
Burning Man festival. Like, I've never been there. I've only seen video and pictures of it, and there is a real collection of off the wall people compared to most regular society. But some of it's interesting, some of it is, whoa, that's just too much, like well, whatever, there's tattooings, and then there's piercings, and then there's body
Mutilation.
mutilation or manipulation, and like, oh goodness, it kind of goes to different steps in that, you know
Yeah, we used to live not too far from where the Burning Man Festival was held, out in the Black Rock Desert there in northern Nevada. It was about maybe 40 miles away from where we lived. And um, we called the people burners. And
mhm.
you could tell when they've been, because it's all alkali dust. Imagine filling your entire house about 3 inches deep with flour.
Mm.
And that's what this entire place is. It's an old dry lake bed. It's nothing
Wait,
but
wait, wait,
alkali dust.
what exactly? What is the actual Burning Man? Like, what's the background on that? Because I have no idea.
Okay, I don't know exactly when it started, but the whole thing centers around this effigy of a human form, a huge thing. And at the
100 feet
very
high or better, I
yeah,
would say.
and at the end of the thing, they set it on fire, and it burns and collapses down into a big old thing, and everybody, it's just a massive party. And that's what the whole thing is. It's like a week-long massive party out in the desert.
Okay.
The state police leave everybody alone so long as you're not flagrantly violating the law. People run around naked. I mean, they do a naked march and the whole thing. And I mean, it's whatever. It's a big counterculture event.
And
Okay.
they have, like,
And
people that swing fire around on, like,
yes,
batons,
they
and
have parades and performances and
yeah,
things like
a lot
that.
of performances.
Uh-huh. And you're right, fire knife dancers and things like that, performance artists. They make huge, elaborate floats and oddball vehicles,
Hmm.
kind of almost like a cross between Cirque du Soleil meets Mad Max kind of a thing, you know. And just everybody out there in the Black Rock Desert just giving it a good go.
And I could imagine there might be a certain element that think of themselves as being, a prophet of some sort, and he's got followers there. Like
Oh yeah,
Eloy was saying, like these, kind of off the wall or different whatever.
there
Because
are a lot of tarot readings, and there are uh, alternate spiritualities and things of that
Mhm.
nature out there, but everybody kind of takes the attitude that nobody's right and nobody is wrong, and everybody just leaves everybody else alone. You do your thing, I'll do my thing, and everybody gets along just fine. And they do. There are very rarely any problems. The only real problems they have is people who aren't involved in the event, who aren't actually going to the event, trying to crash the gate just to see naked people. That's the usual problem that they have. And this is not a cheap event. I mean, it costs 5, 6, 700 bucks to go.
Mhm.
And of course, there's a lot of infrastructure they have to pay for. Like Linda said, yeah, a guy that she used to work with uh, used to run the radio station there, and they had their own little local radio station just for the week. It was just under max power for legality, so they didn't need a license, and he would just broadcast music, and people would come up and perform or do whatever. And it just folks just went out there and gave it a good go. And so long as they weren't real flagrant about breaking the law, um, the police more or less just left them alone. I mean, they had a presence there, and there were aid stations and first aid facilities and what have you. And for sanitation reasons, there were porta potties and what have you. But it's just a big week long party, you know. But as far as the other kind of thing with you're talking about the guy claiming to be Christ and the oddball, joining cults and this, that, and the other. And maybe I'm just cynical, and maybe I'm just experienced. I don't know which is which, but to me, I think it just comes down to attention, and that goes with everything from having pierced ears is fine, but you want a whole colony of earrings around both ears so it looks like you're picking up a radio station from Savannah. That's, to me, that's a cry for attention. Just me, just my opinion. Just like having a potbelly pig for a pet. What do you think the topic of conversation is going to be? It's going to be the pig. It's a cry for attention to me, because
Yeah, and all these things are I mean, maybe not the animal part, but the ear piercing stuff. So back in the day, me and my buddies, we all went down to the mall and got our ear piercings because all the bands had ear piercings, right? And the rock and roll and stuff and this and that. And we went down to get our By the way, horrible. They took a thing and went click. It felt like my whole side of the head was on fire. And I'm like, why did I do this stupid thing? And we all did it. Um, and all it really was a cultural mini cultural bonding, popularity, cool at the moment thing. But it really, at that level, I guess it meant that we all did an experience together and stuff. I guess at that level, that I can talk about now and stuff. But it had, other than that, zero. It was all cultural. It was zero utility in practice, just like
yeah.
tattoos and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Or even fashion and stuff. I mean, if you really break it down, you could really say it's all the ability to try to fit in to a clique or not, or this, because you might as well just wear like some robes and walk
Well,
down the street, you know.
But a lot of that is rebellion against the establishment and
Hmm.
being different from your parents, right?
Yeah.
Because like your dad didn't have an earring, did he?
No.
What did he say when you got yours?
He didn't even realize it because it's not like I just had the one thing. He didn't even pay attention to my ears enough to even, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like my dad, it's just a guy. If it's something obvious like long hair, he
Mhm.
would just tell me, like he did tell me. He says, "You should cut that hair off. You look like a horse." And he kept walking, and that's all he said. So like like they would let me explore the teenagers
Mhm.
journey into the mystery, but they would comment, but I was
Mhm.
let alone to explore my. Luckily, I didn't go so crazy that I did like I don't facial tattoos and so like some
Yeah.
kids do and stuff and this and that
Yeah.
because it's cheese because you could go that extreme, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Well,
just,
we're all three of kind of different generations. I know, Greg, you're little bit older than me, not by much, but a little bit. How did you rebel against that whole your parents thing? How were you a rebel when you were younger?
Uh, I not a whole lot. Like I didn't have a problem with my parents for the most
Well,
part, but for whatever it was, you know, just staying out late, hanging around
mhm,
with my friends,
mhm.
sort of deal, and not home in time where I was supposed to be home, like
Yeah.
like at
Okay.
curfew or that kind of
we
stuff.
got a
And
suburban. We got a dangerous guy down here.
yeah,
Dangerous.
Well,
no, it was
because
pretty benign for me. Like, I didn't. I
yeah,
had long enough hair that it rolled up in the creeper when I, went and slid underneath the car, and
ouch.
I says, "Ouch!" And I'm going to cut it off now because that's stupid. But whatever.
Okay, well, yeah, we were pretty tame, I guess, because that was my rebellion too, was longer hair.
Hmm.
Because my dad was a crew cut kind of guy until about the mid 70s. Then he started actually let his hair grow out a little bit.
Like tattoos and piercings were not
Yeah,
really big when I was a kid.
no.
And I know my uncle had a tattoo and he got it when he was in the army over in Europe.
Hmm.
And it was just the old kind of, I don't know, it was an anchor or something like that
Hmm.
on his forearm, and that was about it. But anyway, yeah, there was not, and tattooing I never really,
Yeah.
even to this day, like I, of all the like, with my kids, they they weren't into too much of the rebellion and that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And my daughter, she wanted a tattoo when she was 15 or 14 or
Hmm.
something like that. No, you got to be 16 before you get one or whatever the deal is. And but of all of them, like the colored hair,
Hmm.
like so what? All
Yeah.
it'll grow out, or you can
Hmm.
color to something else. Tattoo or piercings, you can let them grow in again, so it's
Yeah.
it's big deal.
Yeah.
Tattoos are a little bit more permanent, and
Yes.
I think it's I just imagine that same person sitting in an old folks home with different tattoos, especially the neck tattoos and the side of the face ones.
Hmm.
If they live that long, it's going to be, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. In about 40 years, because people don't think about this stuff, that our bodies change and things move
Mm,
and we get larger. And in about 40 years, it's going to be interesting to go to the beach and see, tramp stamps around people's ankles and stuff like that. So, it's going to be odd. But, and I say that I have a tattoo, but I got in my 20s. But as far as being a teen, I think that was about the only
mm,
real way, and I don't mean rebellion in the sense that you had a problem with your parents, but I mean every generation wants to be different from the previous,
mhm.
and I think we were pretty tame, my generation anyway, in that we had longer hair and the way we dressed. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, the dumbest thing about the 60s and 70s was the way we dressed, because I look back at some of this stuff now and it's just like, really, you
Yeah, there
thought
was
that was cool?
there
you
was
know
some. I remember the awning pants,
Yeah.
vertical striped pants
Vertical stripes.
that
But
had that looked very much like the awnings that the meat mark store, the butcher shop would have.
Yeah.
Roll.
let,
And
let
my
me let
thing
me
was, do you roll them up at night too?
let me unpack that for half a second. What Mark and Gregor are saying, I'm going to unpack a little bit and see where it goes. My opinion, I understand what you're saying about. It's kind of like, boy, look at the colors and the railroad pants and whatnot. Um, but from my vantage point, when I look like at photographs and stuff, and I look at the '60s, obviously I didn't experience it, but from my vantage point, you look at that, it's like, that's freaking awesome because there's a theme to it. I know at the time it was different, but you look at it and you're like, it's identifiable and you could see it. Yes,
Mhm.
you could. But when I look at stuff, actually, let me back up half a second and see what you guys say. Um, when I look at earlier stuff, before that explosion of color that you guys had, there's still a glue to the fashion that the people
Mhm.
wore. Like there's, this thing. For some reason, I would say from the 90s on, everything looks, at least from my narrow point of view, like a continuum of
Laugh in.
like, I don't want to say crap, but like it's all a mush of, you can't quite put your finger on it. It just all looks like, what I think. This is biased as hell, but after the '80s, because they did some continuum from the '70s in their own way
Mhm.
and stuff, but after the '80s, I think it's been one long continuous. You can't put your finger on it to tell the era from just the way people.
Oh no, I can tell 80s.
Okay, well,
It's
Yeah.
it's
go ahead.
big hair, like big hair,
Mm-hmm.
shoulder pads,
Mm-hmm.
and floral print pantsuit type things that women would wear.
Yes.
And just depending on what era, what part of the 80s. But I was going back over, digitizing old 8 millimeter or Super 8 movies, and oh yeah, okay, I remember those things, and you could just tell exactly. Yeah, that's
From what time on?
1984.
From what time? No, I was talking from '90s on.
Oh, 90s. Yeah, okay, but the 80s. Once the big hair and the shoulder pads went out in the 80s, and the disco pretty much was done. Yeah, it's
When I think 80s, I think rock and roll t-shirts
yeah.
because that really wasn't a thing. It kind of sort of started in the 70s, but not really. But like 78, 79, 80, it started to really climb. And in the 80s, it went nuts.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The rock and roll t-shirts.
In the 70s, it was the hot rod t-shirts.
Yes.
You used to go to the fairs and the
Mm-hmm.
car shows, and well, what do you want? You want a Chevelle t-shirt, or a Charger sort of thing,
Mm-hmm.
Dodge kind of the cartoonist thing, like the Ratvink type
Yes.
things. That was 70s.
That was 70s. I remember that well. It was the monster with the cartoonized
Mhm.
hot rods, and then it
Yep.
kind of mellowed out towards the end.
Yep.
It was still going okay, but it kind of mellowed out and kind of went to
And
more
and
realistic looking hot rods and motorcycles.
yeah,
And
and
what have
then along come the bands with their tour promoting T-shirts and
you. Right.
that sort
Concert
of thing.
shirts were
Concert
a
shirts. Yeah.
major thing. Yes. But blue jeans, they stayed around. They changed subtly. They went from as deep dark indigo blue as you could get to sometimes with the cuff rolled up, the pants rolled up at the bottom with the cuff, other
Mhm.
times without. And then faded jeans was the big thing. They had to be real old and faded, acid washed,
Yeah.
and then holes.
Stonewashed was
And
another.
stonewashed, that was the other one.
Yeah.
Yes. I can remember my dad saying that the big thing around here when he was a teenager, and with him it was even more subtle. He had to have short hair. His dad insisted on it. But his generation was the flat top.
Mm-hmm.
And you used pomade in it. You only had hair a half inch long, but you used the pomade in it to get it to stand straight up. You wanted the top of your head to look like a velour sofa, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And he said what you did was you would take your blue jeans and you would lay them out. You folded them a certain way so that you got a crease down the front of the leg and down the back of the leg. You folded them that way, laid them out. You lifted up your mattress and put them underneath your mattress and you slept on them. So that crease would stay there and be there that next
Mm-hmm.
day.
Well, for jeans, I remember growing up, and it was just regular work jeans, from the whatever the 50s, and the rolled up cuff and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then they got into more of a stylized, the bell bottoms come in.
Yeah.
And, it was more girls wore the bell bottoms, but,
Right.
there was bell bottom jeans, there was the blue jeans, plus then there was even, pants that were,
Right.
just bell bottom. And then after the bell bottoms come in, what they called for a while was wide leg flares.
Yes.
And they started, from above the knee, starting
Mm-hmm.
to. And I remember they advertised them at how wide they were, 21-inch.
Yeah.
And I had a pair of those damn things, of course, because that was the style.
That was
And
the
along
style.
come platform shoes at the same time,
Mhm.
with your wide leg flares and your platform shoes.
You know what? It makes a guy from my era, from the born in the mid '70s, uh, looking back at your guys' time and whatever, especially the '60s, it makes one think. You could easily think that what is it? All those people back then lived like that. They went to work like Halloween costumes. Like today, I'm gonna be the plumber, or I'm gonna be the Indian, guy, and they'd go to
Oh
work.
yeah.
It almost felt like people would go and sit in their offices wearing the different,
Oh
like
yeah.
Halloween, 24/7.
Oh yeah. You'd see guys that had never been in a wood shop in their lives with blue and white pinstripe shirts wearing denim overalls, bib
Mhm.
overalls, and a flat roadster cap with cowboy boots, you know. And it was like Linda's saying, women wore bell-bottom hip huggers, and so that the real low rise, so that their belly button was exposed, or granny dresses. And I remember the peasant blouses too. Now you got to remember, I grew
Mhm.
up down in the San Francisco Bay Area, hippie central, and peasant blouses were all over the place. Peasant blouses and macrame necklaces, and then for a little while, puka shells were the big thing.
Yes.
When the surfer look started coming into style, sandals and puka shells and desert boots. But you see, Jim Dockrell saying, I remember high waisted Jordache jeans wore so tight you could read the date on a dime in the back pocket. Yeah. Yeah. Spray painted on.
Mhm. There's pants, and they were what they called burgundies, and they were a deep, deep red
uh,
denim, and it was a style back in about 68 or so. And then there
I,
was gold ones, like a yellowy gold pants that were
I
that
don't remember.
that
I
big.
don't remember
I
that,
just
but I
remember
remember the
going
burgundy.
to school, and these guys, oh, you got a set a pair of burgundies, and then with those pants, the wide belt, the
Yes.
2-inch or better, with a big old buckle,
Mm-hmm.
and the shirt paisley, a paisley shirt,
Paisley shirt.
or like I had a um, black with hot pink polka dots and a high collar of hot pink, and the cuffs were hot pink shirt. Like just wild as wild, like.
Yeah.
But that was the psychedelic start of
Mm-hmm.
era, and
The
that sort
color
of thing, and it,
explosion.
it fit right in with your Steppenwolf and your other types of psychedelic bands and eras.
I remember the first time I ever wore a tie-dyed t-shirt. My friends at school were just oh my God, Mark's wearing tie-dye, because that was seen as hippie.
Hmm.
And it was, I don't remember how many colors it was. It was just a big swirl pattern. The whole thing was, colored,
Hmm.
and red and yellow and blue and green, you name it, every color of the rainbow. And then a few, I think they made up at the time, but it was a big sensation. And
Good or bad?
well, nothing bad, but it was
Mhm.
just kind of awe and disbelief that Mark would wear tie-dye,
Hmm.
Yeah,
you know.
because you were pushing the limits of the cultural.
Well, it
Well,
was different, and I was like 7. So,
mhm, yeah.
we're looking at 1968,
Well, it
69.
was
So I
kind
was
of
7 or 8
a
years old.
thing like, you wanted to fit in,
Mhm.
but you wanted to stand out.
Yes.
It sort of a thing. It's kind of the
Yes.
two, like, oh, you're going to do that. Yeah. Okay. That's a good idea. But if I do exactly as you do, I'm
Mhm.
not, I'm just going to be following, right? So I'll go down and get the more outlandish pants,
Right.
belt, shirt, or medallions.
Mhm.
That's with the pewter things on, like,
Yeah.
you know, they're just these cheap things.
Well, let me ask
Like
you.
the
Let me ask you.
Mr. T starter kit.
Yeah,
Let me ask you
exactly.
guys this about that then. Notice that Mark in Oregon and you up there in Canada, there is some reference points that you can agree upon because it was everywhere. Apparently, from the
Mhm.
United States up to Canada, and I would bet comfortably that you'd see it across the world, the
Mhm.
Western world at the very least. That it could be seen, these trends that people
Mhm.
would latch onto. But today, how can you guys do you I don't know, because I can't really tell, but how do you guys what would you assume that kids today in their respective areas, is there a unifying thing as that, like, or is it like little cliques have their own way of doing things? I know that that's always been the case, but is there any unifying way of dress anymore? I don't know that there is, culturally speaking, as far as popularity, where people latch on
Well,
across the
I've
Western.
noticed Lululemons as being kind of a across the board thing. Like, people were, and I don't know much about it, but like I noticed that as being a
What are
trend.
they?
Lululemons. It's the spandex, tight fitting,
Oh,
whatever,
yoga pants.
yoga pants.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, it's a brand. Why do I know this? Well, my niece, she's, was talking about this a couple of years ago that she had to get a pair of them, and it was the trend to wear these things, and
Mhm.
they're
Locally, or you've seen this in
across. Well, they're quite the company that's been selling these things across North America.
Oh yeah,
okay.
you see spandex a lot.
Yeah,
You,
and it's
I
it's a
see
big.
yoga pants around here a lot. I mean, you
Yeah.
But
go
they've always
downtown.
been around, no?
Nah, not
No, no, no.
really.
You
That's
you'd not see them
fairly
in the
recent.
70s.
Now you would see, if somebody was going to the gym or to a dance studio or something like that, they're going to be, or some sort of activity where wearing that is appropriate.
Mm.
They would wear that under their regular clothes. They might put on a skirt and a blouse to cover it up, and then when they get there, go into the locker room and change out. But you didn't see it really downtown. That's fairly recent. I'd say within the last 10 years, it's gotten
Yeah,
more
So when you
and
and
say
more.
yoga pants, do you mean like spandex type
Yes.
stuff?
yeah,
But
Yeah.
remember back in the day, especially in the 80s, people wore that kind of stuff to the mall, to different places. It's not necessarily something that, but you're saying
Two.
it stands out today, like that's the thing,
well, the
spandex.
Yes.
waitress at the restaurant has them on.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
it's where before it was only when you went to the disco club at night did you wear the
The
outlandish
spandex.
spandex.
Mhm.
Okay, well,
It was more of a
that's
special thing. But you also got to remember that with yourself, Greg, and me, pop culture was the major driving force behind a lot of that. and our
Mhm.
sources of the pop culture were pretty limited. We were stuck with the music we listened to came from the radio. The movies we saw, saw previews and trailers on TV, and all the rest of our pop culture reference was television. So it was pretty limited. Now, very few people watch television. I don't know how many people watch or listen to the radio. They're more or less, just uh, on Spotify or something like that.
Internet stuff.
Exactly. So pop culture has changed, and the distribution of pop culture has changed because you have a certain select few who are Netflix people, and you have other people who are Hulu people. Yes, there's some crossover, but there are
Exactly.
other people who are getting it from other sources. So it's just whatever they happen to be seeing at the time.
Like I can remember growing up in the '60s, and I would say the whole thing, like you say, we can relate to styles back when Mark and I can relate to styles back in the '60s and early '70s. It was television was the one of the biggest things. Like
Yeah.
there was the show The Monkees, right? There was the
Yes.
show The Laugh-In. There was,
Hmm.
and everybody in North America almost had access to these shows, but they didn't
Yeah.
have access to a whole lot other.
Right.
Like, there was no cable up
Mhm.
here until the late '70s up here, mid to late '70s. So you didn't get these other broken up things. So everybody saw the Monkey Show and what each
Mhm.
one was wearing, and then that would show up in the clothing stores or a version of it,
Mhm.
and then that's so people would get these, like I say, these paisley shirts, these high collars and all that kind of stuff. But now it's all there's everywhere. You can your sources is everywhere. There's TikTok, there's
Yeah.
this, that, and the other thing, Facebook, on and on and on.
And you never know what's going to take off because somebody could be wearing something in Spain. Your
Hmm.
cousin could start a trend if she did a TikTok, you know. Somebody in England could start a trend on TikTok or on Instagram or what have you, not knowing it. I can remember talking about the monkeys. I can remember, I want to say it was Mike Nesmith, the guitarist, in one episode, because I watched that show religiously. I loved it. Um, was wearing a pair of sunglasses, but the lenses were teeny tiny rectangles, just
Hmm.
itty bitty rectangles. And I thought they were the coolest things in the world. I wanted a set
Granny glasses, this
because
what we called them.
they were just completely different. They weren't the round John Lennon type glasses, they were little rectangles.
Hmm.
And I thought they were cooler than hell. I never thought about sunglasses before in my life, but that was cool. And I wanted them and I saw them, you know. I got into engineer boots because of that. And the engineer boots were the ones that had the straps around the side with the little chrome ring right
Hmm.
on the ankle. And I had, gosh, I can't tell you how many pairs of those I had. I outgrew them. I didn't wear them out, you know. So it was just it was crazy then because, well, like you'd see on Laughing, you'd see Goldie Hawn dancing to, whatever music in a yellow bikini. And then the next time you went to the beach, every girl was wearing a yellow bikini because that became the
Hmm.
style because it was popular,
Yeah.
It just took off that way. Let me ask you a question. Did you ever own a set or did you ever wear corduroy pants?
Myself.
Eloy,
Oh, Eli.
I did.
you did?
I had a pair of quarter. Yeah,
Okay.
But
and I
uh,
wore it to school, and yeah,
Okay.
uh, part two, were they
they weren't.
narrow whale or wide whale?
Yeah.
What's the difference between the two?
The width of the cord. If they were real thin stripes, that was a narrow cord.
They
We
were.
called them jumbo cords if they were real wide.
They to me, if I think back, to me they were kind of wide.
Yeah. Okay.
If I
Okay.
think back, yeah, and I think mine were like a wine color corduroy,
Mine were brown. Brown corduroy
and
pants.
I liked them. I
Yeah,
liked
corduroy
them.
pants and flip flops. You sound like a one man band,
Hmm.
Boop, boop, flap, boop, boop, flap.
But I bought mine because I even back then I was as a kid I was into the rock and roll and I would see the pictures and this and that
Mhm.
and I said, oh, I want that, and so they got me a pair of the. I had boots. I wore boots.
Mhm.
Um, Most kids weren't wearing boots here. I was wearing boots. My
Yeah.
boots were black and they had the chain that go. I took all that off. It just black.
Mhm.
And then the rock and roll shirts. It was
Yep.
yeah, I mean, one time, this is a side note, but just for the hell of it, it's kind of self-deprecating, but not really because it doesn't matter. One time, my friends come over, and I'm at home just chilling and stuff, and I really didn't have any clothes at the moment that I could wear, but they come in, come on, we're gonna go over our buddy's house and this and that, and we're gonna do this and I'm like, no, dude, actually, I don't have my clothes is in the wash, and all I've got is these. And incidentally, I had the biker like like bicycle
Mhm.
um spandex shorts, because back then
Mhm.
people would wear them,
Yeah.
with the stripe along the side, you
Mhm.
know and you'd wear just a t-shirt, and that's what I had on, and my flip-flops. No, I didn't have flip-flops, because that's the key here. um and I said, come on, dude, let's go, this and that. I said, dude, I don't want to go. Come on, Eloy, come on. I said, dude, you don't even have to get out of the car. We're just gonna go chugga, and then we're gonna leave. And said, okay, I don't have to get out of the car. No, no, no. I said, screw it. I'm not getting out of the car. I had my spandex freaking bicycle shorts, the t-shirt, grabbed my boots, and put my boots on and just walked out the door. So I'm wearing boots, shorts, and a t-shirt. And we get in the car and we drive over to my friend's house, and we all park, or we park, and everybody gets out the car, and I said, where are you guys going? I thought we were just gonna stop to meet the friend. And I said, no, let's just stop for a second. Come on, dude. I'm like, dude, are you kidding? It's hot in here. I can't just sit. So I said, fuck it. So I said, screw it. I got out
Uh.
with boots, the little shorts. It looked not good. And I'm walking, and my friend's dad comes out, and we're all approaching the door, and I stick out like a sore thumb, and he looks at me from top to bottom. He didn't have to say anything. I felt shame, deep, profound shame. I knew I didn't want to come out of my cave, and they dragged my butt out. And there it was. I can't forget it to this day.
And
I looked like a
did you have
clown.
white legs?
I had hairy white legs, but that's not the point. It looked like I wasn't supposed to be. It was weird. It was horrible.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Can you imagine at that time frame? Can you imagine going outside, going to the store, going to the mall, hang out with your friends, anything like that, in either sweatpants or pajama bottoms, being out in public?
Not back then.
Yeah.
Let
Would you
alone what I was wearing.
would you consider it now, going out in public in sweatpants or pajama bottoms?
Sweatpants, yes. Sweatpants, yes, because you can. It's almost kind of sweatpants, yes, depending on where you're going. If you're just going,
Yeah.
if you're going to the corner store,
Mhm.
it's okay. If you're gonna go to the supermarket, that's already a half. You're already crossing the line. You want to wear pants to the
Yeah.
supermarket, but if you're
Okay.
going to a corner store, I don't. I'm not gonna fault myself for that.
Mhm.
But yeah,
How about you, Greg?
Oh, not so much. I did for a while. Always, wear sweatpants. It was just they were comfortable. I
Mhm.
go to work in them. Especially in the wintertime, like that you can get these kind of quite thick, fuzzy ones, and they were warm and that. And then I found out like I never wore sweatpants for
Mhm.
growing up and that. Always jeans, 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 nothing but jeans. And then snowmobiling, you put on like bib overalls that are insulated and they're nylon outside, and you get a matching type of a jacket too, which is windproof. And
Mhm.
while wearing jeans inside these extra insulated overalls, it's quite restrictive in movement. And I
Mhm.
found that wearing sweatpants in there, oh, this works quite good. Like it's warm. It's you got the thing. So that's where I got into this wearing the sweatpants. And then, well, yeah, I can go here, but yeah, there's places you wouldn't
Mhm.
really want to go.
yeah.
Right.
Uh, you wouldn't want to go out to dinner in
No,
sweatpants by no means.
no. But it's strange
Casually, yeah.
because I see people in stores all the time. You be in the grocery store and people walking around in sweatpants. It's more a woman's thing, the pajama bottoms, I think,
Hmm.
than a guy's thing. But you do occasionally see it.
Hmm.
But it's the whole turning outerwear or in underwear into outerwear. And I consider, yes, I'm old. I consider pajamas to be underwear for some
Yeah.
reason. That belongs
Pajamas
in the
are
house and
underwear.
that's it, you know.
They are underwear officially,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Officially, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well,
Now
you know,
there was
it's one of those things that's just I don't know. I think if you're 7,
yeah.
then okay, I'll
You're
give you a
good.
pass. If you're 27, dude, your parents
Well,
let you out of the house looking like that, you know.
well, what would it take right now? Right now, how much money would it take for you? Shorts, boots, out in public for at least a good 3 hours. Shorts and boots and a t-shirt. And we're
Well,
talking.
Now,
I
And
got
we're
the
talking.
shorts, I got a t-shirt, but I don't have boots.
yeah, I don't have any boots
I
either.
go,
And
I
well,
got
no,
insulated rubber boots.
yeah, I do too, but
No,
they
not that
come
kind
up
of
to my
boots.
knee.
No, we want. No, we don't. Well, that's worse. Actually, no, actually, that's not worse. It's just as bad as the cowboy boots
Yeah,
because it's
big.
still.
They're not quite Wellington boots, but they're close to it. Big, rubber boots for out when I'm using the pressure washer or what have you.
But the image of and it always stuck with me. The image of shorts and boots. It's impossible to combine those two
Yeah.
without feeling silly, to say the least. I'll be right back. Give me 1 sec.
No, okay, all right. Well, yeah, talking about the way that we used to, that was our rebellion, I guess. Um, to not be like mom and dad, was the longer hair and the
Hmm.
weirder clothes. And, they were pretty forgiving about stuff like that. But there was never any kind of body modification, no tattoos, no piercings or anything like
No.
that. Like I said, I got the tattoo in my 20s. But yeah.
Well, there's a difference between me, like is a tattoo, a couple tattoos, and the tattooed man at the circus.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
there's a difference there. And
Yeah. Now it's not just it's not enough to have one. You got to have a whole colony of everything.
the sleeves they call them.
Hmm.
Okay, yeah. I get sleeves full of grease and paint, and
Hmm.
I go, oh, I better clean up here.
Yeah,
Like,
really.
So
Well, the thing
I'm.
about it is they look okay when they're fairly new,
Hmm.
but it's not going to stay looking like that.
No.
The black is going to turn bluer and bluer and bluer as it fades and gets old, and it's going to look nasty eventually because your
And
body changes.
yeah, and then there's like the what do they call them? It's tribal or something like that, like those shapes that are um, they're not a picture of anything. They're not
Hmm.
they're not your whatever. They're kind of neat, like
Hmm.
when you go that, but then there again, it's how much how
Yeah.
it, and I've seen guys with sleeves of these tattoos up both sides. They just had basically black arms with a few white or light spots on it.
Hmm.
What the heck? Right down his fingers, all the way.
Yeah.
Like my goodness, it's just too much. Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. It's you, but
Yeah.
not for
I
me.
mean, to me, it's a cry for attention. Now,
Yeah.
cultural things, that's completely different. Like I know there are some Pacific Islander cultures,
Hmm.
um, like in Samoa is one of the places where not everybody does it, but it is common to see, especially the men, just about everything from the hips down
Hmm.
is tattooed. And in Maori cultures, they do the chin tattoos, both men and women.
Hmm.
They'll do the tattoo down across the chin and down into the neck. Um, that's to me, that's different. That's a cultural thing,
Yeah.
and you want to, be true to your culture, then
But
You know, who am I to
same
say?
thing. Northern Canadians, there are
Mhm,
indigenous ones up there that do the facial tattoos
mhm.
of certain types,
Right.
and
And
it's like you say, it's cultural.
yeah, that to me, that's completely different thing. You know, you're not, you know, some honky like me with a lizard across his forehead. That's
Hmm.
not culture. You know, I'm as white bread as they come.
Yeah.
That's a cry for attention.
Well, there was the old SCTV character John Candy used to, the man with a tattoo on his snake tattoo on his face.
Hmm.
You know, he was, selling whatever mattresses or televisions or something. Come
Hmm.
on down and see so and so. I'm the man with the snake tattoo on my face, and they, painted him up
Uh-huh.
with a snake on. Yeah, it's just beyond
Hmm.
or cry for attention.
Yeah. Let's see here. I know it's been, I haven't been watching the comments here. Now it's the yuppie lumberjack look. Peg jeans, flannel shirt, full beard. Can't tell the difference between an axe and a bow saw. Yeah. And that kind of shows how it's kind of gone full circle to where that's what you have to dress like to be different now. You know, uh, I'm waiting for the zoot suit to come back with the high chest on it, you know, and the watch chain, twirling the watch chain.
Well, they had that was in the 80s
Was it?
with that I can't remember the name of the band, but it was in the movie, I think Purple Rain or
Mhm.
another Prince movie. The other band, the guys were they were dressed that way,
Oh, really?
like Cab Calloway,
Hmm.
or to that the kind of thing with the big high waisted
Hmm.
pants and the the hat, the whole bit. That was I think it was Purple Rain, maybe not.
That
I
was
don't
the
know.
1930s, 40s.
Well, the
Yeah, the
zoot
zoot
suit
suits.
was
Yeah,
the 20s.
yeah.
That was the
Yeah, that
roaring
that that
20s.
came back because of certain bands like
Hmm.
something the Mighty Boss Tones or the
The
big
Mighty Mighty Boss Tones,
and or
Big Bad
ska
Voodoo Daddy, and them. Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah,
Hmm.
those kind of bands they were bringing back that vibe,
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
big band
It
slash rock and roll type stuff.
it wasn't widespread. It was
No.
quite
And it was short lived too.
yeah, yeah.
But we were going through all kinds of that. Rick talking about the yuppie lumberjack look. Now I can remember the urban cowboy thing in the 70s, the late 70s.
Hmm.
And it was all because of that John Travolta movie. I mean, disco wasn't enough. Saturday Night Fever wasn't enough. Everybody wearing white polyester suits. Then he comes back a couple years later and does Urban Cowboy, and now people who'd never even seen a horse are driving Ford Broncos and have the button-up shirt with the silver collar ends and the silver buttons on them, wearing a Stetson hat and
The bolo
cowboy
tie.
boots, the bolo tie, and the whole thing. And it's like, dude, you were wearing white polyester 6 months ago. What's up with this? You know?
Mhm.
And how do you? Because I've always had a problem with like me personally. I tend to dress as, I don't want to say plain, but as plain as just average. I don't go to stand out because it feels unnatural. I know that people use clothes to express themselves, especially when you're younger. But
Mhm.
it's my experience personally that the older you get, you don't want. I don't necessarily think that that's the route to express oneself in like the actual clothing and what. You can
Yeah,
be a decently dressed or this or that, but um, I don't know. The
I,
wild stuff doesn't appeal to me at all.
I think it's become more what you were talking about before, Eloy, with people are dividing into cliques.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you have some that are real hot and heavy into Marvel Universe, and you'll see them with Avengers t-shirts on and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then you have emos, and they dress a certain way, and goths dress a certain way. That's
Mhm.
kind of going away now. And the whole I don't know about the yuppie lumberjack. The what
Metro lumber sexuals.
yeah, some of that's there, but that whole thing is starting to go away as well. The what was that whole thing called?
Well, the lumberjack,
Hipster. That whole
yeah,
hipster thing is starting to
yeah.
go away. So thank God.
Well, the lumberjack shirt, we referred to it as a Kenora dinner jacket. And others, which is a town just to the east of us here. Well, you got to poke fun at people, but
Sure.
but like you talking about expression and that, and you're not into the dressing up and that kind of stuff. But you have another form of expression, and that's music for you. Like
Mhm.
and so maybe you don't feel you have to get you can express yourself with clothing, where people who have no musical talents or whatever's, they're looking for other sorts of things like
Let,
hairstyle.
let me pull from that you just said. See what you guys think. I don't know that I've ever asked this question or that we've ever entertained this with from the expression and whatnot that you just mentioned. I don't know about Greg. I don't know about Mark. If I had to assume, I think I could place safe bets on both of them, but I could be totally freaking wrong. And so you'll tell me. For me, and this is going to sound bad to many people because it's just, many people love it. I do not find the utility sufficient to dance the light fantastic. I find it, the dancing, the ritualistic. Anytime I've gone to a club throughout my history, even when I was a kid, I go and it looks like a tribalistic, insanely unuseful. I understand people are having, like, I understand what's going on, but at the same time, I'm looking at it and saying, you can't get more cringy than this, especially the guys. Look at that. And I understand the purpose, but especially the guy, I look at a guy flailing around and stuff, and all I can think of, actually, it brings up thoughts of Mick Jagger. And I look, and it's like, I've never had an internal fountain of emotions to propel. Yes, I've had internal fountains of emotions and many things, but not for me to feel overwhelmed to want to dance it off. I've never felt that inner thing. Sure, on occasion I will dance because it's appropriate according to the thing. I don't feel like it's reasonable, but I do it. Do you guys, have you guys ever experienced an inner welling? I'm exaggerating the emotion part, but have you ever felt the need or felt that the dancing is a-okay, or do you feel it's like kind of like, ugh, not for you? What's your stance on it socially, and you personally and all that jazz, as a ritualistic thing in society that people do in order to whatever this and that?
It has its place. I mean, it's not for me. And for many of the reasons you just mentioned, number one, I suck at it. So I don't feel the need to make myself look like an idiot on purpose. I do that well enough without dancing. Thank you very much.
Are you telling me if so you've never felt the need to shimmy out on the dance
I
floor?
will. No, I will bounce around. I'll tap my feet and I'll bob my head and I'll do this and that if the music is really, really good.
Right,
That's about as far as it goes.
right.
Linda and I have been married for 35 years. I think you can count the number of, 34 years. You can count the number of times her and I have danced, I think, on one hand.
For
Well,
me, my knees don't let me dance anymore, so I'm out there. But it was a means to an end
Mhm.
for me, and it was to meet girls.
Mhm.
Back when you go to the whatever the dance was, and that's how you introduce yourself.
mhm.
You know, you could walk up to anybody, and you could get rejected, but would you like to dance? Would you, and then you did your best to, look cool and all that, no doubt. If there was you know, a mirror, you'd probably question yourself, but it was, so yes, lots of, I used to do lots of dancing.
Greg, but we're in the spectrum. We're all together in the spectrum because you had to do it to a means to an end. But I'm asking even further, Greg. I'm asking even beyond that. Would you,
Did,
at times growing up,
did I
wake
would
up
I
in
wake up in the morning and just decide to go dancing out
would you
on
wake up
in
in
the streets?
sweats? Would you wake up in sweats and wake up in the middle of the night and say, if I don't dance this weekend, I'm just not going to be the same? Did you ever have that?
No, never.
And you know what? I salute you, gentlemen. I salute you, gentlemen.
Now, to Greg's point, I didn't go to dances to meet girls. I went skating. I learned to roller skate, and I loved roller skating. And
Well, that was just dancing on wheels.
it was dancing on wheels, but you didn't have to know how to dance. All you had to do was know how to skate and
Know how to not fall over.
bounce with the music. I scared Linda to death the first time her and I went roller skating together. I spun around backwards and took her hands and kind of started dancing with the music with her, just swaying back and forth. Scared her to death. She thought I was falling over or something like that. But I've been roller skating since I was like 5 years old. So, okay, Jim's got to leave us. Have a good night, Jim.
Oops.
But it was more or less the same thing. You could skate up next to a girl and ask her if she wanted to dance, spin around backwards and start dancing with her, and there you go.
But in your scenario,
and if she said no, you would skate it up to the next girl.
in your scenario, with the additional attachment of a device in order to, you're balancing out the, I'm not even going to say it because we're not in the era that I can say it, but just dancing alone, to me, I hate, you know what? I can't lie to myself. To me, it seems rather, what's the word I'm thinking of?
I know the word you're thinking of, and you can't say it.
Exactly. So, but adding the attachment of skates is to me, reasonable. Now, if you were to say, I go hunting with arrows to catch, and that's how I meet girls, let's say, I would think that that's total, what, that's awesome, and that makes sense. But we don't do that, right? We have to do the dance thing. But just the dancing, it's bad, dude. It's bad. Some guys are good. Look at Fred Astaire.
Yeah.
But
some people are good at it, but
yeah.
And if you enjoy it, great.
Definitely.
I'm not telling anybody not to do it.
Of course
it
not.
just ain't for me. It just ain't for me.
And the thing is the enjoyment. Like, what are you enjoying usually for dancing? You're usually listening to music. Like, I don't know anybody that dances without music of some sort. Whether it's they're just humming the tune in their head or they're listening to whatever. So we used to go to these things, and they were kind of local to where I live, and it was called a social evening. And it was canned music, like, there was back then it was tapes, and that. And it was in a hall of some sort, like, there was different, community club halls, and there was church halls, and, whatever. And they put on an event. They sold liquor. They had canned music, and so people would dance. Like, you would sit at tables, and you had snacks you could eat and that. So anyway, you were enjoying the music, and then you would get up and dance to enjoy it further. Is what I would.
I want to amend everything not everything. I want to amend from what I said, because I want to see if you guys sort of agree or don't in this respect. All the things that I said about dancing, plus the things I didn't say that Mark says he knows without me saying, but we're on the same page. I'm sorry, I'm not leaving that page, okay? But putting that to the side for half a second, would you guys agree that in terms of dancing, maybe it's our personal bias, maybe we share the same idea. In terms of dancing, going back to the 1800s and such, where there was this sort of ballroom etiquette with slight movement, not this wild 1960s. I can't see a guy going like this. Oh, look, I feel so manly doing this. To me, it's total. But in the context of some sort of ballroom activity where there's and you're not moving in fragile ways, to me that's respectable, and I could completely Lawrence Welk type thing. I hate to say it. to me, that is more
and that's
gender,
what I'm
gender neutral.
and that's why I say that has its place. Dancing does have its place
Right.
because but it's just not an activity that I enjoy. I just don't. I can't connect with making the conscious decision to get dressed and go someplace to dance.
But
I
you
just
don't.
can't make that. No, there's no
Right.
connection there.
No, but you don't.
I
You don't.
used to be able, but in my teens, I was able to make that connection where I am going to pick up my skates and get dressed nicely, I thought, and go down to the skating rink and maybe meet somebody, because you checked off a few boxes. If they're at the skating rink, they're thinking the same thing. I like to skate.
But you have
So
the
you
balance.
have that.
You have the
Yes,
balance of the skates, which is a
exactly.
buffer between. It's a
Well,
buffer.
you're limited as to what you can do when you're on skates because yes, you have to be able to keep your balance and you have to be able to stay upright.
That's why the Latin music.
So
Let me just say here in Miami. So the ballroom dancing. I could totally. Hey, this is
mhm,
and it's there's no exaggerated movements and stuff. But
mhm.
in Miami, you're not going to have none of that. Here, if you're not flailing around and this and that, and the hips are just going with, and that's the standard within the musical genres that in the clubs and this. I I can enjoy it from afar, like I can,
Mhm.
but I don't want to participate in any
Yeah.
hip shaking. I don't want to.
The hip shaking's for the girls.
Yes.
They're
I'm with you there.
but like you said, you would go to the roller rink and that kind of stuff, Mark. Like I said about the social evenings,
Mhm.
and it was shortened to a social. You just called it a social, but the bars up here are different than the bars in the U.S. And there was always, or near always, a dance floor
Mhm.
and a bandstand,
Yep.
and they usually had, and it only come in later that there was can music. It was always live bands,
Mhm.
and it was rock and roll type bands that were imitating
Mhm.
whatever was on the thing. So there
Whatever
again,
tunes.
you'd get up on the dance floor when you heard a good song because you wanted to, instead of just sitting at the table and bobbing your head and shaking your
Mhm.
fist. Well, no, you get up and then you'd ask somebody to dance and
Mhm.
that sort of thing, and it was an evening, but alcohol was being served,
Right.
and it it does a lot of loosening.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
my only yeah, and that is the truth there. Alcohol does drop your inhibitions and you're
Hmm.
a little bit less likely to make those judgment calls. But my only experience with dancing in Canada was not an experience I had, it's an experience I observed, and that was in St. John, Newfoundland. In It was just before I met Linda. Um, so we're looking at 1988, I believe. Yeah. No, 80, 87, 87 or 88. Anyway, something back there. And we were up in Newfoundland. Um, and it was a situation like you were talking about. A nice, decent club, live band, big dance floor, and not a soul on it. And that band was playing its tail off, trying to get people up on the floor, and nobody, not one single person, got up to dance. Nobody. And you
Yeah,
could
I've
see
been there.
guys asking women all over the place, "You want to dance? You want to dance?" And they'd look and they'd see nobody up there. No thanks.
Yep.
Nobody wanted to be the first.
Mhm.
You know, it was strange to me. I thought, well, okay, guess they don't like dancing up here.
I'll share this other embarrassing moment.
Uh-oh.
So one time, pretty embarrassing. But screw it. A friend and I, we decided, hey, dude, there's a great club. It's over here down 100 or 117 and this and that. Back years and years ago, maybe it's like a couple of decades ago. And there's a great club. It's open and it's like there's chicks, dude, and it's really cool and this and that. I said, well, yeah, let's go. Okay, yeah, let's go. Um, we went. and I think it was called Club Iguana. I believe that's the name. I think that there were two of them, and one was here down south, and we went to the one down south. So we get there. It's a club. It's happening. There's drinks. We buy some drinks. We're sitting around, this and that. And I say, you know what? There's dancing all over. Let's. I'm gonna go ahead and ask some of these chicks. All right, go for it, dude. And I got up and I walked over to a girl and said, would you like to dance? Without me knowing how to dance, right? And she says, okay. And we get on the dance floor, and it's all that techno music, and I'm dancing, right? And she's dancing, and we're facing each other, and in the middle of it, just a little bit. And I'm just like, my thing is really not the dancing. I just wanted to get. And the girl, she's dancing. She's looking at me. She said, "Oh my goodness, why don't you just loosen up? What's wrong with you?" And she's criticizing me as we're dancing. I'm dancing. What's wrong with you? You're moving. You got to relax and this and that. And she's giving me all these instructions. It was a nightmare, dude. It was a total nightmare.
Well, that must have traumatized you. As why you don't like dancing now.
No, I didn't like it before. I didn't like it before that either. But that shirt, sure as hell, yeah, because it's like, she's
guys will go through some stuff to meet women. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Guys will go through some stuff, and we're willing to humiliate ourselves in front of our friends to meet a girl. Yep.
Oh yeah. But I'm telling you, the things she said, she's like, oh my goodness, why don't you loosen up? You gotta like loose a little bit. Come on, what's right? And I'm listening to all these instructions, and I'm
yeah, I'm just not a dancer.
It's not a there's no win-win out of that,
No.
So it's like, yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
So I don't know. If I was good at it, maybe my attitude would be different. But I know I'm not good at it.
It's subjective.
I just feel like an idiot when I'm out there.
Dude,
well, I was never good at it, but I had fun.
Yeah.
Thinking I was good at it.
I mean, unless you're doing a style of dancing, this free flow dancing stuff, I don't even know. You know what the point is? What I said before stands like 110%. At least for me, it stands. Stamp it with a rubber stamp it.
Well, we've been an hour and 45. You think we ought to land the plane?
Yeah.
I think we put Greg through enough. We didn't ask you any of the hard questions.
Oh, good.
So, he said when we asked Greg to be on, he said, just don't ask me the hard questions. And I'm like, okay. I told Eloy, grunt once for yes, twice for no, that kind of thing. So,
we want to thank our guest, Greg, for hanging out with us, and we hang out quite a lot, but this is cool because we're doing it live, and one for the record, right?
Well, thanks for the invite, guys.
Well,
It's our
maybe we can get you back again when we have something a little bit more structured. We were kind of all over the place tonight, but it was fun. I mean, it was a good discussion.
Yeah. It definitely will be good, because we do have some great back and forths on different things, wherever they may lead and stuff. I want to thank Greg. I want to thank Mark. I want to thank everyone out there. We're sponsored by Harneal Media. That's Steve Nealon, and I took your bit, Mark. I don't know, because when you change something up, Mark, when something changes up, I totally ruin the whole thing.
Dude, I didn't change a thing. You changed it. Go for it. You made your bed, lie in it.
things lined up prior to this. Now we have our guest here. So when something is modified slightly, my train just goes right off the tracks into the ravine. I want to thank all you guys again. I want to also mention that we're sponsored by Harneal Media. That's harnealmedia.com. You can actually get yourself a website if you're looking to sell or promote your items, your discipline, things that you want to show off to the world. He creates websites, great prices. Take a look. That's harnealmedia.com, and Steve's the guy to talk to. We go live every Tuesday, 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific time here on YouTube, Trampled Underfoot Podcast on YouTube. And we have a website, trampledunderfootpodcast.com, and a page over there on Facebook. I did the whole darn thing. And you let me go. So that's about it. We do wish you guys the best of everything. We always do. We wish you well. Enjoy and be safe. We'll catch you again next week.
Have a good one, y'all.
sorry, Mark. I should have. There was no. We